Welcome to GovCon Unscripted, where we dive into the unfiltered stories and strategies from all around the world of government contracting. Join host Chelsea Roberts as she explores how to navigate, thrive, and win in this complex but lucrative industry.
All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to GovCon Unscripted. I'm your host, Chelsea Roberts, CEO of Collaborative Compositions, and today I've got with us Mollie Jahner. Mollie is the managing principal of Mission Cultivate. Mollie, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I love it. And I'm going to say I'm actually a wife and a mom, and I love to garden first. And I also love chickens. On the work side, I help founders in the defense tech space over the last 20 years connect to capital and help capital.
So first of all, I love you hitting it with the meaningful stuff first and getting that, what you truly embody and what you embrace out there first. So few people do that. So I love and appreciate that. We've got that in common. I'm a mom and a wife as well. And so I'm very much in tune with the family life. And that's something unique that I don't think a lot of people really bring into this interesting space of the crossroads of defense capital and defense tech and defense acquisition. So I guess first question, we'll start out with how do you feel that those two worlds intersect and what do you feel like you bring from that personal world into the business world?
I'm very passionate about working moms. And I will say, if you've ever worked with one, they are a hostage negotiator. Working moms have to get a certain amount of things done in the day. And if they don't, I've never had a situation where I've thought, oh, wow, I have all this leftover time. And so I think when you think about the fast pace of defense tech, I think being a parent helps with that in some cases. And then I also think it grounds you in the real world because life is hard and that world is honestly scary sometimes. And so being able to go out in my garden or play with my chickens is really important to decompress.
Yeah, it is incredibly important to take that time to break away and to take that time for some self-care and for some regulation at points. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's fast and it's scary and it's increasingly fast. I can't think of a time 10 years ago when anybody would have been defense tech. It's fast. But now people are, wow, this is going way faster than we thought it was going to go. And now we really got to figure out how to keep up and catch up. What role does Mission Cultivate have in that aspect of it?
Yes, I'm thankful to have two really great business partners and I think creating community. So Mission Cultivate is attempting to level the playing field and allow industry and government to have really candid conversations, which I think helps with the speed of which technology is advancing. Because the older procurement processes, they are a little bit slower, but the tech is fast and the landscape is dangerous and fast. And so how do we get the right tech in the hands of the right people at the right speed? And so facilitating those conversations is something we're very passionate about.
And those conversations aren't necessarily always open and right out there for you to walk in and start participating in. I personally am super familiar with a lot of back channel conversations and a lot of back channel places where you have some of these conversations. It can be daunting to try to figure out how to get into these conversations, where they're being had. And it's even now in the virtual and digital world, it's all of these signal chats and everything. It's invite only. It's very exclusive. You've got to be really in tune. That's one thing I love about Mission Cultivate is that it's really trying to cultivate those conversations in a way that's more holistic and organic and open to new thoughts and opinions. And it's not the same old boys club. Is that what you see?
I think you said it better than I could. It's true. And I still think that the world is such where it's, who do I know? It's the way of it. But I do think that there's a really big push to try and get more and different conversations happening in all the right places. And to your point, it's not open on LinkedIn for all of our competitors or Russia to see, but it's actually in a safe, vetted place. So it still does feel like it's secure in a way, but it's not by any means siloed, which I think, to your point, is to the detriment of a lot of really good ideas.
Yeah. And I'm curious, how did you get even involved in defense tech and acquisition? When did you find yourself in this world?
We grew up in Snohomish, and Snohomish, for those that don't know, it's a crazy and nerd with small town, and it is what it is. But Snohomish, which is out in Washington State, and in Washington State, Boeing is king. It has been for many years, although now there's quite a bit of competition out there for them. But I got my start doing work for Boeing and writing contracts or procurement and decided I wanted to work for myself after a couple of years. And so I started my own agency and I was ghostwriting for general officers, retiring, transitioning general officers out of the military. I learned so much writing for them over the course of a couple of years that it made my transition to defense tech. I decided I love it. I want to be in here. For the most part, engineers say what they mean, what they say. It's so refreshing, especially in comparison to being in potentially the capital spaces of the BC world. And so I just stuck.
I love that we have that in common. Such a small world that we both grew up in and around the same area.
Random.
I'm totally random. It really goes to show you how small government contracting and defense tech and acquisition, that world really is. It is really small. And before long, you're going to really come to find people that you probably grew up with, or in this case, my husband grew up with. And you probably have some background and story to each other from somewhere. So I love that connection and that tie-in. And it's so curious. So I see a lot of folks that either transition out of service or they transition out of the military and they go and they work for a Boeing or a Raytheon or a Lockheed because it's comfortable, it's familiar, the bureaucracy, it's at the same levels of operating levels that you could get in government. And I'm always curious what drives somebody from that world into feeling inspired and feeling confident enough to go launch your own thing.
I don't think I was made for corporate America. I was there for a few years and I learned a lot. And then I got to get out of here. I can't do this. So I think if you're entrenched in it for many years and that's your style of working, then that's different. But that didn't work for me. I really like to work my own hours and be with my family and do different things. And entrepreneurship was always for me. But I do think some of the folks that come out of the military, it's really incredible to see them starting businesses because it is a juxtaposition of been here in this space with bureaucracies. Now I'm doing my own thing. And what I see often in those founders is a tremendous grit and creativity that surpasses any and all, I don't even know the word to be, system that you could put them in. And oftentimes they also have encountered the very problem that they're trying to solve. And they're very passionate about it. And nothing is going to stand in their way to solve that problem. And that's usually the common thread that I've seen.
Yeah. And I think that really actually ties really well into the name of the organization, Mission Cultivate, because you're really cultivating that mission understanding and that common mission amongst the folks that you're hiring and the organizations that you're working with. And there's so much value in having that firsthand experience and that lived experience with the mission and with the problems and the problem sets that are hampering and that interdict any of these missions as they're being pursued. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, why was Mission Cultivate the next best step for you? And what did that transaction look like? Did they just hire you? Wasn't there some acquisition brought into the fold? Yes, yeah.
I remember wearing the same shirt as in my acquisition announcement video. And I was like, what? Big announcement shirt or my podcast shirt. But no, my agency was building up to this for a long time. And I met Jerry and Robert and the guys over at Mission Cultivate a couple months ago and started talking about, hey, this is what we believe in. This is what they believe in, our vision. And they were really similar missions. How do we honestly fund the mission for warfighters and get the right tech in the right hands as fast as possible? And we built a software solution called Raise that essentially connects founders to non-dilutive funding, federal and state, and helps write proposals and things like that. I'm still a huge advocate for human in the loop. Don't just use AI to write your proposals because it's not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
But connecting people to the right sources. And it made sense for Mission Cultivate to purchase our company because they thought, hey, we need to bring these opportunities and the software into the community space where we're already having these conversations. And so that's what that looked like.
So now in practice, what does that look like from the Mission Cultivate side? And for all of our audience, I'm sure that you can do a much better job of explaining what Mission Cultivate is and how your software interact with it.
Mission Cultivate is a GovCloud secure community. You can join. You have to be vetted to join. Once you're in there, you can create communities. We have a lot of private communities, hidden communities, a lot from intelligence and the like. Community of Smalls is a great example. And they're all talking about ways to sell or grow their businesses. Essentially, that's what it usually boils down to, opportunity and network. And so what Raise does, our software, which is now a product nested within Mission Cultivate, does is helps connect to the federal and state non-dilutive opportunities that are out there for these companies. And the thing that I'm most excited about, and we're really close in the next couple of weeks to announcing this, but so don't hold me to that. I know Jerry Tom thinking, oh no, she's out there. She's making all these promises. But how do we help the community of smalls and subs essentially partner together to go after more non-dilutive? Because there's so many opportunities that are out there. Anduril, Raytheon, they snap them up. And that's probably going to always be some level of that in our world. But how do we get more small businesses and new tech to partner together and go after money? I think that's where we're really passionate about. How do we get more people into the ecosystem and working through these things?
And one of the things that I'm personally really passionate about is really those innovative and unique teaming structures that companies, they get to engage with other companies and form their own consortia or their own mentor-protege relationships. And there's even some community development corporations that come together for the common good of whatever mission they're all trying to help achieve. And they come together and they pursue that capital as a team, as a group, as a multi-party organizational representation of what is going after these types of opportunities. And I think that's such a misconception, is if you are teaming, you are getting less of a pie. And in reality, I view it as you're getting more of a pie and more of a bigger pie, because you're able to get a bigger pie and go after a bigger pie than you were before alone. And I'm curious, how are you seeing, at least within the communities that Mission Cultivate houses, how are companies negotiating and forming different teaming arrangements? And do you see it being an open and easier conversation than it would be in other places where it may come off more competitive?
I think I'll use an example. I have a great company and they won't mind me mentioning them. So Tam Fortis Solutions is a SMR company, so small micronuclear reactor. They need a lot of funding upfront, right? It's hard. Hard tech is hard. It really,
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of opportunity that they can go after. What's interesting is there's a company that's building a truck called Pawnee Mobility, and it's a hybrid truck, and they can put the SMR in the back of the truck. That opens up maybe 30 different solicitations for them that they wouldn't be able to go after for themselves. And so now together they're more powerful and they can create a teaming agreement, go after that funding. And to your earlier point, I think some of something is better than nothing of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have an opportunity to go after these things. But the other piece of it, and I'm sure you'll agree here, is okay, yes, not the non-dilutive, the money that you could potentially capture. Woohoo, that's awesome. But the other piece of it is straight lead generation. I talked about capital stacking earlier, and it's, hey, non-dilutive is one piece of that. VC may be one piece of that, although I would advocate people to potentially steer clear of that if you can. And then revenue, drive revenue. How are we actually selling this thing and going to market with it? And so new people to be in a consortia or teaming or whatever that looks like. Now you're meeting a partner, potentially for the life of your company, and you can go do business together, and that unlocks purchase orders and all kinds of other things, which I think sometimes is even.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% spot on. I find that companies that have a forward thinking and a forward leaning perspective on forming teaming relationships, instead of okay, we need to fill this gap on this one bid and this one proposal, they end up with higher lifetime value relationships. They end up being able to pursue different, and in some cases, some advanced work that they wouldn't have been able to pursue otherwise. And they may actually put themselves into a position where they don't have to evaluate that VC capital. They don't have to look at things that could dilute their ownership and dilute their tech. And so I'm curious, because you mentioned it, what's your thoughts on VCs, and when do you suggest companies maybe not go down there?
Only 2% of companies get funded. And don't even get me started on women founders. We get 0.00 some percentage of the pie. And not that's necessarily the most important piece. It's obviously the tech is the most important. But I will say this, you lose a lot of control over the direction and of your company when you dilute that. And I will also say I've seen a lot of founders get investment from VC, and then it's not a good partnership because they don't actually understand defense tech or hard tech. They want to return immediately. And you're like, in 5 years, we're going to be getting that first thing that we built out the door, not able to cash out. And then if you strip that money out of your organization, now you're left with, what do we do with this? We can't go to market now. And I caution founders. I also feel like there's a lot of other opportunities to find funding in your organization. There's actually grants from businesses like FedEx, UPS, and they're not huge, but they'll tend to sometimes $100,000 grants that they give you as a small business. You look at the state level, there's oftentimes a lot of money there for this from the states, and at your city level. Bellevue, as we grew up in Washington, incredibly wealthy city, they have a ton of money available for small businesses. And so looking at those things and trying to figure out, okay, how do I, when I say stack, okay, I have this layer, I have this layer, I have this layer of capital that can help me get to the finish line. It doesn't have to be all or nothing a VC round.
And on top of that, I would say it doesn't have to be all or nothing defense or contracting capital, because again, those timelines are not immediate, and they are not the things that you can go knock on a door, get Or in general, it's not a pay for play system. So it's not a, here you go, you contributed your $250 or $500 to your consortium membership fees, and now you expect to be awarded contracts. And same it is on IDIQ contracts. You win a seat at the table, but you have to still go fight for the actual food that's being served. And you actually then have to go, you have to hunt, and you have to make sure that you're on top of that. And I think that there's so few companies that, especially within the VC realm, that really think of that as their end all be all. And they sometimes go this route, okay, I have to take VC. I must take VC or else I'm never going to get far. And the reality of it is, in addition to all those things that you mentioned that could be negative about VCs, it's also the fact that they might not have any concern for foreign ownership, control, or influence. They may have some downsides or some barriers that could end up blocking out your end customer in general.
That's a good point. I don't think we realize that. You can PS reviews. Am I pronouncing it correctly? It's where you essentially have to go through this review if you have somebody from outside of a certain country. There's a couple countries that are grandfathered in, but then the rest, it's go through super hardcore review, and you could go to jail if they determine weren't honest on the other end of it.
Yeah. And it's not even, oftentimes these companies they're not trying to be dishonest. They just haven't been given that information, or they're not in a position to put that information in the right place or understand what those implications are down the road. And I can't imagine how disappointing it is when you get some award and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't comply with this. I took this VC, I took this capital, and now I've sunk myself into this hole I can't dig myself out of, it's almost an insurmountable problem because VC is so sexy and shiny. It's like, yes. And most people don't even realize that Anduril, yes, they've got a multi-billion-dollar valuation at this point, and they just raised their Series H.
That's so funny. But why though?
But why? Because the valuation is based on the amount of money that the VCs have contributed, and it's not based on actual revenue. They got this big announcement of, we got a $20 billion award. And I'm okay, but how much have been obligated to you? How much of that have you actually produced and provided the system, the tech, or whatever on that you are actually bringing that in? I think they're still pre-revenue, which is insane for how high they are valued. That blows my mind.
It's very speculative. It's really a lot like gambling, honestly. It's just in a fancier way. They get it fancier terms.
Yeah, it really is. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you see Mission Cultivate cultivating those relationships that then can lead to funding opportunities? And this is not, you jump on Mission Cultivate, you find your customer, and then you say, hey, buy this from me right now, I'm guessing. But it's more of a developing that relationship and developing out the opportunities together as a mission partner and mission server on that side. So how do you view that working as a process?
I'll tell you, before I joined Mission Cultivate, so I joined their platform to drive lead generation. I was like, okay, how do I find companies that might need help with my services? And I jumped in there, and it's no different than I would use any other system like a LinkedIn or a Reddit. You're looking for leads, right? How am I finding people I can connect with that maybe there's opportunity? That's always how it's been in marketing and sales. What I like about Mission Cultivate, and it helped me be a little bit more prescriptive with my time, is everybody there was already in my right demographic. This is defense tech. This is exactly what we're focused on. We're focused on networking. Sometimes it feels like everybody on LinkedIn is not there for sales and marketing. They're there for, I don't know, posting pictures or doing whatever. And you're like, okay, where you reach out and then I don't want to connect. And you're like, all right, cool, no problem. That's fine. I thought that's what this is for. So everybody, Mission Cultivate is, it's like, hey, we're here, we're networking. We're under the understanding that we're here to figure out how to communicate and work together. And so once you join, there definitely there's government bodies there. So we have a lot of really cool different folks from different branches talking about different things that the government needs. And then we have industry talking about, what are we creating? What are we building? How can I partner with somebody? Somebody today, hey, I had this really cool solicitation with XYZ agency who wants to partner with me on it, and reaching out and doing those things. And then there are capital players there, but there are people who understand defense tech. So it's people who are there, they've invested, they've been in defense tech, they've worked with veterans. And so they're there and they understand exactly what they're looking for, scouting for good companies and good tech. So the whole community is the goal.
And I love that. It gives people a place where everyone knows that everyone's in the same realm, in the same market, and in the same context. And they're all coming to the table with an understanding of what they're expecting and hoping for to happen. And I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the AI slop that is absolutely covering LinkedIn these days really hasn't made it into those conversational channels that are on Mission Cultivate.
No, naughty about that. He's our director of comms, and he goes on a rant about AI slop. He's very much about write it yourself.
Yeah, yes, it's not
Get
hard.
through then M-dash. Because I used to use M-dashes all the time, and now you can. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what in yes, this is terrible.
It's now, I think most people don't really understand how to make an M dash happen on their computer. They're like, that's not even on the keyboard. What do we do? No way that's supposed to happen.
Yes.
But I absolutely relate to all those English folks who are diehard M dash users. And they're like, man, this is a proper use of this type of tool in actual writing. So let's not hate on it. But oh my gosh, yes. It's become so hard to understand and to differentiate between real opinions, which obviously an AI can't form, and people's opinions that they do form and that they do try to get out there and that they do want to have put out into the world. And I think it's similar when you're talking about reviewing and digging deep into some of the problem sets that are publicly advertised or brought up in public conversation. Because if you have an AI assess that problem set, the likelihood that it's actually going to grasp onto the most important parts of that and that it's going to really bring that true problem set and that true problem understanding to you as a user, it's so unlikely. It's like you have to get into conversations with the folks that have these problems, that are experiencing them, that you can ultimately help understand the problem and then help understand the best types of solutions for those problems. So I think that's absolutely another added benefit of the whole Mission Cultivate enterprise and the whole ecosystem. It brings you closer to the problem set that you need to understand to be able to proliferate your solution throughout the customer set that is the defense organizations or federal government at large. So I'm curious, does Mission Cultivate serve both FedCiv and military, or is one or the other?
Yep, no, it's both. And there are some dual use applications too. Hey, I'm working in the healthcare space. And as long as there's pieces of it where it's, hey, I could sell to the feds tech, those folks are welcome in the community because we're talking about you can't just be that exclusive. And one of the applications for defense tech, and it's sometimes doesn't look like a weapon system or a convoy. It doesn't look so defense tech-y, for lack of a better word. It's like different pieces of it. And so it's okay, how are we dealing with contested logistics? How are we dealing with supply chain, which is a huge one. And there's so many different use cases in agriculture, and those don't look the same. So those are all pieces of the community. And they all deserved a chance to raise funds and have a chance to get their business in the hands of the government.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody deserves the opportunity to get in front of the customer that may have need for their solution and to be able to facilitate those discovery conversations and to facilitate some of that deeper engagement that it's hard to get when you're scanning sam.gov and trying to find points of contact and reaching out. And these poor people, I feel so hard for them right now. They're so overwhelmed, so overworked. And it's really hard to get through to folks because, first of all, half the folks aren't there anymore. And they're the ones that are have so much work to do. There's a lot of self-importance that goes into why aren't they responding to us? Why aren't they getting back to me? And let's look at it from the human perspective right now. They're probably a little overwhelmed. Morale might not be super high. You might want to look to other areas where the people are experiencing the problem firsthand, not just contracting for it and not just contracting for the solution for it. That's another thing that I love about Mission Cultivate is within those communities, you've got end users, you've got PMs, you've got COs, you've got everybody who plays in that sphere who are all contributing to the conversations that companies get to jump in and participate in.
That's exactly right. There's so many different pieces of it. And I love what you said about scanning sam.gov. I posted some meme about you dilute your company with VC or you dilute your sanity looking through sam.gov. Which path are you taking? And it's so true because I guess we'll go this route and then we'll be on sam.gov for 40 minutes and try and figure out what are we going to do? How are we going to figure out what's right for me?
Yes. And it's so hard. It's trying to figure out what the government calls your stuff. And it's an entirely different world. And for companies that are new, that can be daunting and absolutely overwhelming. So I love the fact that Mission Cultivate has ecosystem where they're fostering those conversations and those relationships that you don't see. That's not sam.gov's job. It is LinkedIn's job, though. It's not specific enough to get to the heart of the problem, which is communicating with other people and counterparts in the world that you're trying to work within and sell within is not necessarily easy. There's not a front door for all of these folks that you can go knock on. So I think that's super interesting. So where is Mission Cultivate going next?
We're launching Raise in the next week and a half. So we're very excited about that. That's the platform that's going to connect people to funding faster. Talk sam.gov. It's a pain in the butt to navigate it. Hopefully this will make it a little easier. So check it out. Looking at teaming and making recommendations for teaming within the community. How do we help connect people faster to each other is going to be something that we're looking to do and then growing as fast as we can.
I love that. And what's next for Mollie Jahner?
More chickens.
Yes.
playing chicken math. And then, working on building this. And I've been trying to learn to surf for the last 6 months, and it has not been going well. So we're lucky to agree at the this somehow. How do we make that go better?
I have surfed a couple of times, and I distinctly recall the last time I got off a surfboard, it just came right up and clipped me right between the legs as hard as I have ever been hit. And oh my God, I threw up. It was so unbelievably painful that I was, okay, this is Stuart. I respect the ocean. The ocean does not respect me. And that's the way our relationship's going to work.
Maybe Robin's too. To be,
I have all the hope and belief in the world that you can absolutely master it. It definitely takes some lessons and some lived experience to get the hang of. For sure.
all right, good.
Yes.
For having me on your podcast. I really appreciated it.
This has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm sure everyone out there is going to get a good sense of who you are, what Mission Cultivate is. And for those of the audience that want to get hold of you and they want to reach out and they want to know more about either working with you or they want to know more about Rise or Mission Cultivate, how do they get a hold of you?
You can check out LinkedIn. So I'm there all the time. And then you can jump on missioncultivate.com and you can join the platform and find me there.
Awesome. Thanks again so much. An amazing conversation. And I'm sure the audience is going to get a whole lot out of it. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening this week to GovCon Unscripted. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, make sure your friends get a hold of this podcast, and do your part. Leave a heart on whichever platform you can. So we appreciate you listening, and stay tuned next week for the next episode of GovCon Unscripted. Thanks all.
Thanks for listening to this episode of GovCon Unscripted with your host, Chelsea Roberts. Do you have a GovCon story or need guidance in government contracting? Connect with Chelsea on LinkedIn to be a guest on the show or to enhance your business strategy. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your growing GovCon community.